So we start off by just letting the back body melt down into the floor. We can rest our hands on our tummy or down by our side or anywhere on the torso that feels like it needs a little bit of extra nurturing or attention. Allow your forehead to become heavy, your jaw to become heavy, the cheeks melt down. Everything becomes soft, switched off and heavy. If you feel comfortable too, we're going to draw both legs into a bend. Plant the soles of the feet down. Flatten the spine to the ground, drop the knees wide, and connect the soles of the feet to one another. You might start off here with the feet a little bit closer towards the pelvis, and then find that you need to draw them further away, or vice versa. You might stay here with the arms resting on your tummy, or you might take the arms into a square where you hold opposite palm to opposite elbow and drop the arms back. Allow yourself to completely disengage the muscles. If it feels far too intense to relax the muscles, then prop the legs up a little bit taller. So you can place a block or blankets underneath the upper of the hips to monitor how far they drop into the pose for more of a restorative approach. It will feel intense, but we're allowing ourselves to become aware of how the sensation feels within your body, ensuring that we only experience sensations of deep stretching as opposed to any sharp or pinching pain. We allow ourselves to use our knowledge of our body to work out what feels right for us. Often, the more we relax down into a pose, the gentler it becomes. The more the initial sensations dissipate until the body reaches this state where it can be relaxed and soft, where we're deepening into the specific joints, focusing on the tendons, the ligaments, those deep yin tissues, strengthening and lengthening these areas. We also have a knock-on effect, not just for the physical body, but also for the energy body, which runs through these yin tissues of the body. It's thought that as we break down the fascia, create areas of compression or stimulation, then we begin to encourage that flow of prana that flows through the meridian body, which runs like ley lines through your body. When you're feeling ready, Slowly draw both soles of the feet down to the floor. Both knees shine up. We float our arms down by our side. Inhale deeply in. Exhale, send both legs long. Arms down by our side. In that previous movement, we were targeting through the heart and lung meridians, through the chest and armpits, and mostly through the stomach and spleen meridians, through the inner groin and inner thighs. So here we're just allowing ourselves to draw the arms back down by our side and the legs long for a counter pose. This counter pose allows that free flowing of the energy in the areas that we've been stimulating, compressing, focusing on within our yin pose. When you're feeling ready, slowly guide both legs into a bend. Draw your knees together and your feet as wide as the mat. And we're just going to rest here for 20 seconds. Still disengaging the muscles, heavy and switched off. Completely relying the weight of the body into the floor. Allowing gravity and the hard ground to melt your body into a pose that is unique to you. We don't have to create a certain aesthetic of each pose. We just have to focus on how it feels within your body. When you're feeling ready, slowly drawing both soles of the feet back to the floor, we're going to lift our left leg into a deep bend. So we draw the left knee in towards the left armpit. We hook that left biggest toe and we allow ourselves to melt that right arm down by our side. Now from here you have a few options. One option is allowing that left knee to fall out to the left or a little bit further back towards the wall behind you. Another option is keeping this leg bent and upright, or the right leg can fall outwards a little bit, or we can send that leg long for a more intense focus. If the big toe is a little bit out of reach, you can use a belt. You can hook the foot with your entire hand, or you can hold behind the back of the thigh if all three of those are a little bit out of reach for today. So, once you've found your perfect variation, whatever that may be, we then commit to stillness. Committing to stillness in yin doesn't necessarily mean staying still at all costs. If the pose doesn't feel right for you, if you don't feel comfortable enough to relax, then we don't need to be still and just sit with that anyway. We always want to be as compassionate towards our body as we can. You want to find your edge, which is the point in which gravity lowers you down to, where you can't go any further, where the sensation is halfway between not intense at all and far too intense. We never want to surpass the intensity, we don't want to feel any pain, but we also don't want the poses to feel so easy that the mind could easily wander away. We would like the sensations that we feel and the breath that we're taking to be our two bridges back to present. We're targeting quite a few of the lower body meridians here. Some which relate to contentment and joy, others relating to release and forgiveness. We allow ourselves, no matter which thoughts arise, to observe them as if we are an outsider. We are separate from the thoughts, non-attached from the brain, from the emotions. We're just observing. When you're ready, we slide the right leg up to the right hand. We match what we're doing on the left, if you feel comfortable to, and then drop that left leg. Now, if that transition is not comfortable for you, then you absolutely can go down with the legs and then move the right leg up instead. So we either fall into half happy baby with that left leg bent, or we can send it long if you prefer. Well done. Relaxing down. It's normal for the start of the pose to feel a lot more intense physically, and therefore the mind finds it a little bit harder to melt down. But the more we relax the focus area, which here is the belly button down, the more we begin to shift into that yin-like state within. It's thought that when we have tensions within the mind, we can store these within our body, creating knots, blockages, that the meridian, as they travel through, find it harder to carry that energy flowing through your body. So almost like holding your thumb down on a knot. Each pose uses compression and stimulation to release tension from the body, to encourage a free-flowing energy through your body. As we release tensions from the physical body that may have originated within the mind, it's normal for these thoughts to float back into the mind. We allow ourselves to avoid holding on to them, avoid pulling them in for conversation or pushing them away for complete silence. We instead just observe whatever arises. Sometimes the mind will simply wander because silence is unfamiliar and therefore uncomfortable. Sometimes the body will fidget rather than need to move because the stillness is uncomfortable as it is unfamiliar. But within that silence that we melt into and slowly reach within our yin practice, this often gives volume to thoughts that might have been bubbling under the surface. Often we refer to some of these thoughts as soul whispers. It can be like shining a light on the inner workings of the mind, on how interconnected the body and the mind are. And as we now come into our counter pose, where we send both legs long, both arms up and back in a straight line, that stillness of the body might provide a little bit of volume to those finer energy movements. Observe in complete physical stillness the sensations that flow through your right hip, down through that right leg. Observe sensations in the pelvis. Sometimes you'll be able to feel a connection to the chakras that run through the center of the torso. We're in this counter pose for 10 more seconds. It's often thought that the counter pose is one of the points that we receive the most benefit from our practice. That within the poses, the body is receiving benefit, the mind is improving in cognitive function as we ask less and less of it. Yet in the counter poses is when the meridian body flows freely, prana or life force or chi, however you choose to consider that life force or flowing of energy through your body. It's thought that within the counter poses, this is when it flows freely. So from here, we're going to move on to our fronts. We're going to slide both legs into a bend, roll onto one side, and roll all the way forwards like so. We're going to tuck the toes underneath the body, sink your hips back onto your heels. If you need a bit more room to breathe, absolutely draw your knees wide if you need. Stack your fists and relax your head onto your stacked fists. We exhale, completely disengage through the entire body here. As you disengage, you'll notice, first of all, a strong sensation in your toes. As you relax all of the weight of the body onto your toes. At first, it might feel quite intense, but the more we relax and trust in our ability to know what's right for our body, the more the sensation begins to dissipate. So we relax in the mind, relax in the body, releasing resistance. And therefore, moment to moment, the pose feels more enjoyable. We do the same for the mind. If we experience thoughts, release all resistance. We release all judgment, all attachment. We're observing from that space of complete stillness, where all that exists is awareness and compassion. This is often thought of as your observer self. When you're feeling ready, we're coming into our next pose. We reach both sets of hands out in front, and we're going to take a really nice heart opener, focusing on the lung and heart meridians. We're going to release the toes, so there's a little counter pose happening here. We sink your hips up like so they stack above your knees. We relax your heart space down towards the floor. If you've practiced Anahatanasana or melting heart pose before, then you might play around with placing your chin down and looking forwards. That is a lot more intense on the upper vertebrae. If we're relatively new, then we'll think about placing the forehead down, closing down the eyes. Either way, we want to still the pupils. We want to relax the muscles of the body. The arms are active here, and the rest of the body is switched off. In all of our poses, we would like to relax down as much as we physically can. But many of the poses like this require an element of yang that monitors how deep we fall. There's a compression through the spine, through the urinary bladder meridian, a stimulation through the armpits and chest, the heart and lung meridian, which relate to love and fear. However, the urinary bladder meridian the heart and lung meridian relate to love and freedom, the urinary bladder meridian relating to fear. And it's thought that when we have blockages in any of these areas, that we can begin to feel certain emotions in excess or lack. So there is no right or wrong. things may arise. We don't need to understand why they've arisen, or where we held them within our body. We just acknowledge, become aware, and then when you're ready, return to stillness without pushing the thought away, without pulling it in. Just observe and return to present. When you're feeling ready, we slowly draw our hands back towards us, tuck our toes, and come into a downwards dog. We allow a stillness here. Often in downwards dog, we're pedaling, we're swaying, we're rolling on the balls of the feet. Here, we're allowing this lovely yin stillness. When you're ready, we're going to lift the left leg and travel through into your swan position. So from here, we're going to look over our right shoulder and just make sure that our right leg is in line with your right hip. In yang, we're often thinking about a dorsiflexed foot, a squared off shin. In yin, we let the foot become soft. We let the foot draw in towards the pelvis if it likes. Rather than focusing on the perfectly squared off pelvis, we let the pelvis fall wherever it likes. So if it falls a bit to the left, that's fine. If it falls a little bit forwards, that's fine as well. Just let your body fall in a way that feels right for you. There is this notion in yin that the pose works around your body rather than you trying to work around the pose. So you might come down onto your forearms, or you might stay perfectly upright like so. You might even come into full sleeping swan, where we relax fully flat down. Find what feels right for you. You could also stack the forearms, stack the wrists. Just make it feel restorative and disciplined. Meaning, we want to be able to relax all of the muscles in the body here, completely supported by the hard ground. Yet we're completely relaxed and trusting in the pose. There's that discipline of breathing through the sensations as they arise. Just becoming aware. Committing to stillness. Committing to that relaxation. Some poses will feel more difficult to relax down in. That is completely normal. That could be due to holding a certain tension or emotion or attachment in this area. It could be physical, maybe it feels a lot more intense. Therefore the mind focuses more on when the pose will be over. If that is the case, take whatever measures you need to find that perfect halfway point between not intense enough and too intense. We're in this pose for 3 more breath cycles. when you're feeling ready, slowly making your way up into a downward dog position, holding it here, allowing that stillness, that discipline, allowing the upper body to do more work than the lower body here. The fingers are spread wide, the hips are lifting, yet the feet are completely relaxed, the back of the legs completely soft. And then when you're ready, the right leg lifts or steps straight forwards, whatever feels right for you. We start off by checking over that left leg. Make sure the left leg aligns with your hip. And then we can either stay upright, or if it feels right for you, we can walk the hands forwards, either forearms up, forearms stacked, or arms straight out in front. Take what feels right for you. Melt heavily. Let all of the muscles switch off. If something doesn't feel right for your body, take whatever you need to change the positioning. Maybe we'll roll onto our back and take a full stretch instead. We either close down the eyes or find a soft, heavy gaze, but either way, we allow a stilling of the pupils. This signals to the mind that we can relax down, de-stimulating, allowing the nervous system to rest. It's normal for the mind to wander. And it's normal for it to feel really hard to ignore. Often compartmentalizing each different part of the brain or the thought process can be really helpful in Yin. Not just in the way that we see the thoughts as separate from us, the one who's watching, but we observe the separate thoughts as whether they are habitual, whether these are simply habits that we've formed, as random thoughts, as if they were floating along and they've just dropped into our head, separate from us. Thoughts that we've been holding within our body, beliefs, thoughts from the ego, thoughts from the identity. And then there's us, watching, completely separate from all of these different types of thoughts. It's thought that this consciousness or awareness that observes each of these thoughts is completely separate from the body, separate from the mind. It's always there, always aware and watching, even when we're asleep. However, we don't always let it take the driver's seat. Often in day-to-day life, we use the other helpful parts of our brain, such as the ego, the identity, all these other different parts of ourselves. But when we don't give them that time to rest, to take a back seat, then we don't always leave that space, but we allow ourselves to just exist and be without having to do something. When we allow ourselves to return to a state of being, where we don't place any pressure on ourselves or expect anything of ourselves, it can be really good for the cognitive function, for the mental health, for burnout. When you're feeling ready, as slowly as you can, we walk the hands upright. And we're going to shuffle onto our sit bones. So we make our way up, like so. Brilliant. And we're going to stack our legs in fire log. So we start off with our right shin parallel to the front of the room. Our left leg either comes out by the side, so we have one parallel shin to the front of the room, one leg out long. Or this left leg comes right in towards the groin. Or if we prefer, the legs stack, like so. We relax down the arms, relax down the eyes, and switch off. Take whatever modifications you need. If it feels more right to have your hands in your lap, down by your side but palms up. If you feel more correct with your body leaning forwards a little bit, or a little bit more upright. There is no right or wrong in yin. It's all about what feels right for you. Listening to your body in the present moment and responding accordingly. When we find ourselves experiencing thoughts, we don't need to purposefully release away the thought. We don't need to decide whether it aligns with us, whether we agree with it, whether it's ours or random. We don't need to do anything at all other than be aware and observe. Watch the thought without any secondary judgment or conversation, like shining a light. The thought is simply something that you are experiencing in the present, you being the one watching, separate from the mind, separate from the body. When you're feeling ready, as slowly as you can, we're going to draw both legs out. And we're just having a little upright, wide-legged counter pose here. You could draw them as wide as you like. It doesn't have to be too close together. Find what feels right for you. You could draw the arms down by your side, or you could fold forwards a little bit. We're just breathing here, observing what feels right for you, and then committing to stillness for around 20 more seconds. you're feeling ready, slowly draw that left sole of the foot maybe towards the inner right leg. It faces towards that right wall. You might instead choose to draw that right leg up towards you, drawing the foot right in towards your pelvis for a gentler approach than square, but a more intense approach than leg long. Or you might stack that foot on top. As you relax down the muscles, it's normal for this leg to fall down the shin, or to fall in towards your pelvis. In Yin, wherever you land when you relax and switch off is your perfect version of the pose for today. So we can relax our arms either in our lap, down by our side. Maybe you feel comfortable laying them down out in front. There is no right or wrong, just move slowly. Move in a way that feels intuitive, where you're listening to your body. As you relax down, relax the jaw, the forehead. Everything becomes soft. Everything turns into a state of being rather than doing. We know that when we have tension within the mind, it can manifest as tension within the body. We know that by physically relaxing the body, we can begin to relax the mind and the nervous system and slow the breath. We know that slowing the breath can calm the mind further. So we're just using what we know about the interconnectedness, the intertwined body, mind and breath, and using it to our advantage. It can have this lovely cyclical effect, increasing that yin-like state, that calmness, that releasing more and more. One tip that I find very helpful if the mind is wandering is to release the face muscles first. Then the shoulders. Then observe the breath, observe the sensations within the body. If it feels too easy, lean forwards a little bit. We always want that sensation there to keep us present, to begin to tap into that discipline approach. However, if you are after a little bit of a gentler practice, more of a soft love rather than a tough love, whichever feels right for you today, then even if the sensations feel really gentle, you might just stay in that gentle pose. Each time you practice Yin, or Yin with a restorative approach, you'll have a completely different experience, because we're never just going through the motions. We're always intently listening to our body, our mind, our heart or our emotions, our energy shifting, and just responding in the moment. And this gets easier and easier the more we practice. Easier to trust in the pose, to become aware of how we are and where we're at. Often when we're quite new to Yin, because we're going so deep into the body, things that we've held for a long time may arise. Beliefs or expectations of ourselves might arise into the consciousness. However, when we have more of a frequent practice, it can feel a little bit more like you're just releasing the tensions of the week just gone. Constantly allowing that free flowing of prana through your body. When you're ready, we're going to gently send our legs long for our last counter pose for today, which is our Savasana. So we send both legs long, we draw the arms out by our side, or you can draw them behind you for a little stretch if you like. When you're ready, we soften down the muscles. Allow your savasana to feel intuitive to you. We're here for 3 more breaths. When you're ready, drawing both legs into a bend, hugging them in towards your body. Rolling all the way onto one side and making your way up into an upright position. Drawing your hands into Anjali Mudra. Namaste.